agree it's a disgrace. What do you think?
Well, I totally agree with all the managers who, through the VARs and through the decisions, what's happening, losing games. You heard him say there, there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake for these managers and for these players, what they're working on week in, week out, for them to go to a game on a Saturday and then lose a game in that manner. And he's not giving Newcastle credit, because Newcastle's a great team. You go up there, it's going to be tough. Like I said, I would have taken 0-0 if we didn't lose in this kind of circumstances. But I'm so pleased just to hear him saying it, because it does anger you. It angers the fans. It's just not acceptable now. I can't sit here. I'm still thinking about the ball, what I can see out, and think to myself, why give it instead of not give it when you haven't got a conclusive Premier League, haven't got a conclusive camera to show us that ball is touching the line. But then what we can see is that the ball's out, but they're going to give the goal. Just that, not even with a push in the back. I'm pleased my manager's speaking like that. I'm delighted for him.
One goal, one enormous talking point, which we'll get into very quickly. But just first of all, your reaction to those very strong words from Mikel Arteta.
I understand his frustration. I understand everybody's frustration with certain decisions, what's happening at the moment. And I think that one of the things that stick out more than anything else for me is what's at stake. And obviously he's trying to go to try and win the Premier League. There's teams who are trying to stave off relegation. There's teams just trying to achieve. And you're losing games in situations where you believe you shouldn't be. And you could see his frustration. I'm frustrated as well, to be honest, but what can you do? What can you do? That's what he's probably saying there.
Let's get into it then. Sheikh, you're both going to have your say, so just bide your time. First of all, ball out of play or not for you?
Well, the angle we've got, Steve, it looks out of play. I mean, that's the thing. But it's inconclusive because the camera angle isn't perfectly on the line. So part of the ball can still be in play. And if that's the case, then it's not out of play. So I'm sort of contradicting myself here at this point. But there is an angle when there's a still on the line that it looks out of play. And you'll see it from this angle better. When we freeze it and we magnify it, it looks out of play. To the naked eye, now to me, that looks out of play. But if you have got a camera running right along the end line, part of the ball could still be in play. And I think that's why they couldn't, even the VAR couldn't say it's definitely 100% out of play, because they haven't got the right angle.
The thing with that, though, Shay, is that why it's so frustrating for me and very hard to take is because we haven't got a conclusive angle to show that it may be crossing the line, the circumference of the ball might be crossing the line. So why would you, from what you can see, that the ball is out, would you still not give that ball as out? That's what I can't understand.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk to Dermot Gallagher in a moment. First of all, is this potentially a foul by Joe Linton, Wrighty?
Well, from what we can see here, he's got two hands on his back. I do believe that Joe Linton, for me, has got his two hands on his back, and I feel that Gabriel probably could head that if he's not impeded. That's the only thing I can look at it and see. And as to why I wouldn't give that goal was he impeded? And I think he was. I think he was fouled.
Well, I think there's a physicality to the game as well. And I do believe one ref would say it's not a foul, and one ref would say it isn't a foul. So it's all about the VAR didn't think it was strong enough to say rule the goal out because he thinks it's a foul, or come and look at it at least. That's another thing you have to ask the question. It took over 4 minutes for the goal to be given. Why can't the referee sure that will go to the screen and talk him through with the VAR all the different decisions on that particular goal?
Oh, let's talk to our referee, the former Premier League official, Dermot Gallagher. Dermot, right, 3 sections here. First of all, ball out of play. Discuss.
The most difficult of the 3, I think, Steve, because the law says the whole of the ball has to be over the whole of the line. Wrighty says he thinks it is. Shay's not sure. I described it earlier, when there's a corner taken, it's out the quadrant, I think, but it says part of it's overhanging. The argument is here, is it overhanging? Unfortunately, Wrighty makes a good point. He says, it looks over the line, but they have to be convinced. It's a bit like offside. You can't give a player offside unless you're convinced he's offside. They can't give the ball out of play unless they're convinced the ball is 100% out of play. So because they haven't got the line across, which is not possible at the moment, they have to go with what they've got. And with what they've got, they felt that there's part of the ball overhanging the line. So therefore they play on.
So Dermot, we're dealing with guesswork. The Premier League's dealing with guesswork, because that's guessing.
Well, what we're dealing with, right, is we're dealing with something we haven't got conclusive. And
But what we can
unfortunately,
see right here, Derm, is that conclusively from our angle here is out.
but when you look across that line, Wrighty, which the assistant would, don't forget the assistant would be smack on that line looking across. If he sees any part of that ball overhanging the line, he has to allow play to continue. And I think I go back to that when I say about the corner quadrant, because that's the one I always look at and think, why are they allowed to take it there? That's very, very similar. You know, the whole of the ball has to be over the whole of the line. I know it's difficult, but unless they're convinced 100% it's over the line, they can't give it out.
Okay. Point 2. Did Arsenal have a case for a foul by Joe Linton?
I said earlier, Steve, of the 3 points, I think this is the easiest one, and it could be wrapped up here because one's inconclusive, the other's not possible to see. With this, for me, I mean, Shea makes a great point. One referee would say yes, one referee would say no. I fall into the yes camp. You know, I think it's a foul. Stuart Atwell didn't think it's a foul. That's the difference. The VAR didn't think there was enough contact to overrule the referee. So therefore, the on-field decision stood.
So on the back of that, Dermot, you know it takes over 4 minutes for the whole sort of conclusion to come. Is it not worth Stuart Atwell having a little jog over just to the screen and actually talking him through the whole thing bit by bit, because there's so much to go through? In other words, because he's standing in the middle of the pitch just fending players off for 4 minutes. Surely to get the right decision, and if he thinks, look at the push, or if it's a push or not a push, I still think I'll stick with my on-field decision because I've seen it again now in the replay. Is that not easier to work out?
I think sitting here, now Shay, it is, there's no doubt about that. But when you look at it, if you walk it through like they did, the first thing is checking the ball's over the line. Well, he looked at that, looked at that, looked at that. That's nothing to do with the referee. Is the ball in or out? They then check the push. Is it a push? They looked at it, looked at it, looked at it. The VAR felt that it wasn't enough to send a referee to the screen. And then the third is the offside, which they looked at for a long, long time, but couldn't find the lines to decide where the ball was when it struck Joe Linton to come down. There the ball's obscured, so they have no start point. And that's the problem. You need a start point to get to a conclusion. You can see here there's no start point because they don't know where the ball is. So they don't know where the ball is.
They're guessing again then, Dermot, aren't they?
Well, what they have to do, they're not guessing because they haven't guessed, Shay. What they've said, they can't make that decision. So they default back to the assistant who says, not offside. The interesting thing is, Shay, with these 3 decisions, I know it doesn't make it right, but the on-field decision was ball in play. The on-field decision was no foul, and the on-field decision was no offside. Yeah. So we've actually ended up, without technology, with the same result anyhow.
Well, ideally, then, just quickly, then don't use it. Let's just go with the on-field, because like the fact that you've got all this technology and it's showing certain things that for me was quite conclusive. I'd say, especially the foul, then don't use it, because like let's just go with the on-field decision then.
Yeah.
Well, let's just do that, because it seems to me it's a waste of time otherwise.
Well, I think the problem, Wrighty, with the second one, I mean, Shay made a great point. One referee yes, one referee no. As I said, I think it's a foul. Other referees don't. And the problem there is that once they've got technology and the referee makes that on-field decision, says, I've seen the contact, I don't think it's enough to give a foul. The VAR looks at it and he sees what the referee says, so he doesn't overrule him because he doesn't think it's enough to overrule him.
Dermot, thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Dermot.
So many talking points, but a big